well documented that the CIA tested the effects of LSD on hundreds of unsuspecting subjects in the 1950s, and that the government withheld treatment from black syphilis victims during the infamous Tuskegee experiment. Not so well known is that many other Americans were used as human guinea pigs. Our program reveals how government agencies exposed millions to toxic chemicals and radioactivity without permission, and, according to critics, without regard for the potential dangers.
Part of the problem is we're not dealing with a human, we're dealing with psychopathic humans, and then we're dealing with a mind which is in fact not human, and it regards us as animals. And then you begin to think, well, how do we treat animals? And you get nervous. I get very nervous about this.
Scientists have no First Amendment protection, none. They're not free to speak out anyway. Now, as I've mentioned in the past, there's a federal gag order. I want all your listeners to consider that. There's a federal gag order on all National Weather Service and all NOAA employees. I mean, how much more obvious is this situation? They're trying to plug leaks in the ship. And we have environmental scientists being fired all over. Canada's let go a huge number of their scientists. Australia has just fired 450 of their frontline environmental scientists. Why? Because they want to cover up what's happening in any way they can. And again, they're simply trying to obscure the severity of what's unfolding from the public as long as possible. So I would argue this again. If we don't take care of what's happening in our environment, in our skies right now, nothing else is going to matter. All these financial plans that people have and all their future aspirations won't mean anything soon.
Soldiers were exposed to radiation to test their performance in a nuclear war. In the 1950s, the Army released bacteria and chemicals at sea, in the air, and underground.
I found out that 4 of my pals that lived directly across the street from me had all died of cancer.
He was going from high fevers to chills. He had hallucinations, and so it was a very, very serious infection and fever that was causing all that in him.
The Serratia marcescens infection is so unusual to the doctors and scientists at the hospital that 3 of them team up and write a scientific article about it. At the time, the doctors are unaware of the tests the Army had conducted using the same type bacteria just days before. The scientific article is published in October 1951 in the Journal of the American Medical Association, reaching a very limited readership. However, the Army does see the article, and a panel of 4 military scientists reviews the case.
Some months after, they concluded, and this is a very strange conclusion, that the Army's bacteria and the bacteria that caused the infections in the hospital were not of the same strain or the same nature, and that any relationship was apparently coincidental.
The warming has been continuous with the exception of what's been hidden temporarily, toxically, by climate engineering. And the negative effects from climate engineering now far outweigh any perceived benefits from these programs. It's simply a way to mask the severity of what's unfolding until the last possible moment. So what happened when the planet started to warm again? Because there was the buildup of greenhouse gases continuing to occur, the geoengineers doubled down. And the warmer it gets, the more they double down. And this is simply like trying to put out a fire with buckets of gas, George. So it's the same approach in the medical industry, right? Don't we see that?
We see it all the time.
Same approach. Just take more pharmaceuticals. If the ones you're taking aren't working, you need to take more. And now we're talking about on a planetary scale. So 1945 is when the programs appeared to have been deployed in earnest, and it shows up immediately on global temperature records.
How did you get involved with this, Dane?
Never wanted this battle. I'm not political. I state that often. And I've never been any sort of an activist. But when I built my home in the Pacific Northwest expecting to find clean air, a fully off-grid home, I'm on wind, solar, and hydro. And when I began to lose massive amounts of my solar power uptake, that's my background with backup power, from whatever these aircraft were emitting was not a natural cloud in the sky. That is not condensation. It's impossible. And when I began to research and found the mountains of data on climate engineering, geoengineering, began to test my rain, my precipitation, finding the same elements in the rain that were listed in the patents, climbing steadily. With every precipitation event, the more they sprayed, the more visible, the more power I lost, the more aluminum that showed up in my rain, and I couldn't look the other way once I knew.
Would you say most big cities in the United States are the victims of being sprayed?
As in being focused on, if you will? No, I wouldn't say that. Now,
so just targeted key areas, or what?
Although with this caveat, because some of the temperature readings are taken from those larger urban areas, there may be some focus to try to lower those temperatures for afternoon highs, if you will, in order to try to mask some of the severity of the warming that's occurring. And in regard to the warming, we've just passed, I believe, the 380th consecutive month of above normal global temperatures. And I know everybody's divided on this issue because we all know that there's people making money off climate change, right?
Oh, yeah.
We know that, right?
Absolutely.
So what I would ask people to consider is people make money off of wars, right, George? Both sides.
Just a little bit.
They make money, the same people make money off both sides of the conflict. But does that mean the wars didn't happen? Does that mean people didn't die? No. The wars happened and people died, and the same is true here. Yes, we have disaster capitalists making money off of what's happening with the climate, but that doesn't mean the damage is not real. That doesn't mean the danger is not real. So Monsanto can make all the aluminum-resistant seeds they want, all the UV-resistant seeds they want, all the drought-resistant seeds they want. When the ship goes down, it won't matter, will it?
Has anybody filed suit against any organization or entity claiming that they got sick because of this?
There are a number of claims. The legal team that works directly with geoengineeringwatch.org has filed in Canada in March of 2016. We filed a 60-day notice of intent to file a lawsuit already in the U.S. Our legal team has, but we have not filed the actual complaint yet because we're still tightening it up, making sure it's completely bulletproof. But this is interesting, George. Within about 3 hours of our legal team filing a 60-day notice of pending lawsuit, I heard from the head of the National Academy of Sciences, Marcia McNutt, within 3 hours. They're certainly watching everything we're doing. They're obviously going to do everything they can to keep this issue from coming to light, because what would you do, George, or people that you know, if this comes to light and in a way that the masses truly wake up and they realize the experiment they've been exposed to, permanently damaging their health, their environment, their atmosphere, their planet, was done without their knowledge or consent? How do you think they're going to react?
They're not going to be too happy about it, Dane.
Pitchforks and torches.
And some legalese, too.
Yeah. We'll see what they do.
I want to talk about HARP for a moment, and then we'll start taking calls at the half here. And we're going to keep you next hour for some more phone calls. Is that okay?
Good to go.
HARP. Of course, Nick Begich has been a genius when it comes to that. But what do you think is going on there in Alaska?
Well, George, you remember about 2 years ago, there was a lot of publicity that they were going to close HARP down, and that proved a quote-unquote conspiracy.
Yep, and defund it. That's right.
That's what they claimed. Did that happen? No.
Nope.
And at geoengineeringwatch.org, we held from day one to the conclusion that this was nothing but a red herring, nothing but a ploy. It's exactly what it was. Now HARP has not only been continuously funded, but it's been retrofitted, upgraded with some improvements. They're not about to shut that down. And right now, with the severity of climate unraveling that we're seeing, and these headlines that we've seen in recent weeks and months will continue to escalate in severity. We have a climate system that's coming apart. We have a power structure that's unimaginably desperate. And George, as some of your show alluded to before we got on the air with the climate engineering, the push for World War III. That's the final card the power structure has to play when they have no other options. When the planetary implosion manifests to the degree that the economic escalations, which your show also talked about, the 21,000 record mark, they can artificially inflate the stock market all they want. When the biosphere implodes, that's the end of the line.
Basically,
nature has historically provided 75% of all global GDP for free, no longer.
You can't artificially inflate an economy without an environment that produces, and that environment is now collapsing.